niggas. Oh, I got him, baby.
So you must first of all remember that this system was not originally designed with black people in mind.
Now, the important thing is to be realistic. We all like you here, you know that. But you're a nigger, and a lawyer is no realistic goal for a nigger.
But why, Mr. Ostrowski? I get the best grades in class. I got voted class president. I want to be a lawyer.
Now, I want you to think about something that you can be. You're good with your hands, making things. People would give you work. I would myself. Why don't you become a carpenter? That's a good profession for a color. Wasn't your pa a carpenter? Jesus was a carpenter. People like you as a person. You're doing real well. Remember what we said. Nothing succeeds like success. Let me hear it.
Nothing succeeds like success.
Right. As long as you're realistic.
Do we have a deal, Mr. Reagan?
You know, I know this steak doesn't exist. I know that when I put it in my mouth, the Matrix is telling my brain that it is juicy and delicious. After 9 years, you know what I realize? Ignorance is bliss.
Then we have a deal.
I don't want to remember nothing. Nothing. You understand?
Imagine a world with no disease, no danger, no pain.
You have been sold a lie.
What could it mean? The answer lay in the diabolical laboratory of Simon Bar Sinister.
It works. My snow gun works.
Yeah, boss. But what good is a snow gun?
Watch, Chad, and you shall see.
Hi, everybody. This is Linda. I wanted to show you something here. Now, this video is just a what if type thing. What if my opinion that this is a man-made storm is correct? I want to show you some things that make me believe this. First, as you know, it's set out there over Haiti for 4 days, right before it reached Haiti, actually, for 4 days. Now, a massive hurricane like this does not sit in the middle of the ocean for 4 days and not move. All right, that is evidence number one. Now, you look at this storm right here. Today, I heard a weatherman say something that made me want to do this video. He said, don't worry about this storm here. It's just sitting out in the ocean, churning away. It's just keeping the hurricane from going east. All right, east is out in the ocean. So it's just keeping, this is a quote, it's just keeping that hurricane from going east. Now you see these big systems up here. This one, look how big that is. And there's one equally as big right here behind it. These are squishing this hurricane.
It's racial. Well, expand. I like that. Now, check it out. The white ball dominates everything, right? It knocks the shit out the yellow ball, the red ball, right? And the game's over when the white ball drives the black ball completely off the table.
that you remember his face. Be on guard against him at all times.
Yes, sir.
That is your enemy until he can be destroyed. He is full of tricks and evil powers, and he will stop at nothing to gain control of the earth.
I don't understand. Why doesn't anyone tell me what's going on? Please tell me, who is this Rodak?
All right. He is a creature from space who is only interested in possessing this galaxy.
Huh?
He is now centralizing all of his forces to control Earth.
Oh, he's dangerous.
One by one, he has already captured many stars in this galaxy. He has many weapons that are controlled from his spaceship. He strikes with viciousness and destroys everything in his path. There is no end to his greed and evil methods. He has already conquered many stars, destroyed those who lived on them, and left ruins in his path. Now, he wants to do the same to Earth, so beware of sudden strange happenings.
George Soros. I am a god. I created everything. George Soros claimed he is a god and the creator of everything. However, the billionaire globalist also warned he is a self-centered god who believes normal rules do not apply to him. I fancy myself as some kind of god, he wrote. If truth be known, I carry some rather potent messianic fantasies with me from childhood, which I felt I had to control. Otherwise, they might get me in trouble. When asked by Britain's independent newspaper to elaborate on that statement, Soros doubled down. It is a sort of a disease when you consider yourself some kind of god, the creator of everything, but I feel comfortable about it now since I began to live it out. Since I began to live it out, those unfamiliar with Soros would probably dismiss that claim as nothing more the typical blathering of an irrelevant madman. But those who have followed his career and social political endeavors realize that while he may be mad, he is a mad billionaire, and billionaires tend not to be irrelevant, especially not mad billionaires with self-centered agendas who believe that normal rules do not apply to themselves. Soros has learned that with enormous reserves of unethical earned money at his disposal, he has the power to make the once unthinkable acceptable. His work as a self-professed immoral financial speculators have left millions in poverty when their national currencies were devalued. And he has channeled so much cash into molding former Soviet republics to his liking that he has bragged that the former Soviet empire is now the Soros empire. Obviously, he has now turned his immoral eye on the internal affairs of the United States. A high-profile megabuck donor to the Clintons' campaign. It was recently exposed by WikiLeaks that Soros issued directives on foreign policies to Clinton when she was Secretary of State, instructions that she followed to the letter. His enormous donations to the American ruling class has earned him a seat in the shadow government, pulling puppet strings behind the scenes. So what does Soros think about the nation he immigrated to from his native Hungary in 1956? Today's United States, he writes in his latest book, The Bubble of American Supremacy is a Threat to the World. We have become a supremacist nation. Despite his reputation as an international philanthropist, Soros occasionally becomes candid about his real nature. I am sort of a deus ex machina, Soros told the New York Times in 1994. I am something unnatural. I am very comfortable with my public persona because it is one I have created for myself. It represents what I like to be as distinct from what I really am. You know, in my personal capacity, I'm not actually a selfless philanthropic person. I'm very much self-centered. Soros got to the point quicker when he explained the deepest secrets of his souls to biographer Michael Kaufman. I'm a kind of a nut who wants to have an impact, he said. But the globalist billionaire's mad visions don't end there. Next to my fantasies about being God, I also have very strong fantasies of being mad. Soros said on British TV. In fact, my grandfather was actually paranoid. I have a lot of madness in my family. So far, I have escaped it. In his book, Soros of Soros, he says, I do not accept the rules imposed by others, and in the periods of regime change, the normal rules don't apply.
Foolish people. None of them would have been destroyed if they had surrendered peacefully to me. Now the Earthlings will know of my great powers, and their planet shall be mine.
Rothschild's insider warned of planned United States race war. In 2013, a whistleblower and Rothschild family insider warned that the elites were pushing for a race war in America. The elites want to establish martial law in the United States to stifle dissidents and circumvent free speech and to further their global agenda of a one-world order and mass depopulation. To achieve this, they need to do some social engineering by instigating a race war against the black folks at home. As if following a script or some explicit stage direction, the narrative of racism and division is being pushed by mainstream media, and the ideal of an American race war is edging further into public consciousness. No one among the ranks of citizenry stands to gain anything at all from a bloodbath between blacks and whites. But here in 2016, we suddenly find ourselves on the precipice of such an apocalyptic clash. In 2013, James Casbolt, aka Michael Prince, a self-proclaimed Rothschild family insider, explained to Kerry Cassidy of Project Camelot how the world political elites were planning to catalyze a race war in America as part of a conspiracy to advance the agenda of depopulation, to destroy the black race, to further destabilize the nation, and to create the conditions necessary for martial law in the United States. Casbolt claimed to be part of the Rothschild bloodline, someone who has spent his entire life being groomed as an assassin for the world's most powerful family, a super soldier, as he puts it. Now serving time in prison, some consider Casbolt's credentials to be rather shady. However, in many interviews on the subject of the world's ruling elite, he has presented insight and information that bears out as being both well-informed and shockingly persistent. In this case, he was asked by Cassidy, again over 3 years ago, what he thought the global elites were planning in order to expand the empire of control in coming years. His reply seems almost prophetic today against the backdrops of riots in several major U.S. cities and the emergence of the George Soros-funded Fifth Column Revolution movement, Black Lives Matter. Casbolt replied, "The enemy now is, they're instigating a race war in America. They're socially engineering it. A race war against blacks and whites because they're trying to reduce the population, so they're targeting blacks in America as the first group. And as an extension of what was going on in Africa with this depopulation, the blacks in Africa with engineering AIDS and the things like that. So they're engineering social situations in America now, and that group is being currently targeted, the blacks in America. There's a lot of race issues being brought into the media, like Obama's talking about. Let's talk about race. In the media, a lot of things are focused on race to get people's mindset geared up for that. Social engineer programs are the chief export of the global agenda, as history demonstrates. Casbolt goes on to connect contemporary events to events in the 60s when the CIA, known to have infiltrated the counterculture movement, working against the establishment war machine. In essence, it is a continuation of social engineering programs from Haight-Ashbury in the 60s in San Francisco. The Manson family, the Charles Manson murders. And he was programmed at China Lake for the social engineering. Charles Manson, was talking about Helter Skelter, which is a race war, apocalyptic race war in America between blacks and whites. And the Beatles triggered that, the Helter Skelter song. And then that was the Manson murders were supposed to trigger that. The race war was supposed to start in Haight-Ashbury, the hippies' colony in San Francisco. They often tried to, with the Fourth Reich being based on the West Coast, they tried to trigger this helter-skelter apocalyptic race war in California. With the LA riots, they tried to do it again, and they're going to keep trying to do it until all hell breaks loose between blacks and white in America. Because the black race is being targeted currently in America, the African Americans. Michael Prince. Referring to a faction of the ruling elites of the Fourth Reich, a living continuation of the Nazi movement that destroyed Europe in the 1940s, Caswell speaks of an engineering race war as a key component. The Fourth Reich essentially is going to keep socially engineering these situations, like the Helter Skelter or the Mansons in the 60s, because they want to reduce the population, but they need to start with target groups. 3 years after this interview, as this exact scenario inches even more closely, comments such as these should serve as warnings that we are being tricked into participating in our own demise, and as the mainstream media twists real events and injustice into a false flag race war, we must counter the divide and conquer strategy with a popular campaign of unity while identifying and calling out the truth. Hey, how's y'all doing? This is the Whiteologist. Mr. Blows Your Mind's coming with another thought-provoking topic. That's right, y'all, back again. See my videos, so I guess I'll slow about them out until you go out there. So I guess I'm expecting you to at least a brother, right? But I know you got things going on, you got family, you got jobs. I understand you don't got time to be listening to something that Mr. Blows Your Mind keeps seeming to be redundantly saying. But again, I ain't telling you what I heard, y'all. I'm telling you what I know. And so this election is coming down to the finish, to the wire. And a lot of people are upset because the tactics that have been used are just slinging manure all over the place, right? They're just slinging it. And so people are kind of confused as to what is going to be the end results. And so people are feeling a little unease. And there's so much stuff happening around this world that this is just really just coming to the culmination of an agenda that has been long put together, with a lot of intricate players involved in this and people who you would not probably think is part of it. But again, our naivete of us as a nation of people can to keep thinking that people have our best interests at heart. Yes, we know some people that may be on the other side that may be friends with us. But again, according to their bloodlines of who they are, they never really had power anyway. They were just the sediment, right? The pot liquor of the nation anyway. So if you have any real relationships and stuff like that with them, well, okay, that's what it is. But we're talking about the real power players who are really orchestrating everything, okay? As you just seen, as these clips was being put out, you seen that I read the story about George Soros saying that I am a god. I created everything. Just on the simple fact that somebody is coming out and saying something like that, saying that they a god off the bat, lets you know straight up that where they coming from psychologically in their mind. And he goes on and he says some real interesting things that a lot of us, again, we're not paying attention to a lot of simply because we're so bombarded with a daily life, right? So we don't have time to really be sitting down in particular paying attention to everything, because a lot of this stuff gets under the radar anyway. And you hearing stuff about stars and some of the people who are iconic that you have favorism to, and you pay more attention to that, to the things that are something to do with internationally, globally, that will, really affect you. So this story had came out. A lot of people I didn't see nobody touch it. So I decided I'm gonna go ahead and touch it. And then, as you heard me read it out, it goes on to say this: George Soros says that he fancied himself as a kind of a god. Right? And we know that, and I know there's people who are not going to be, believers of the scriptures and things of that. And that's not what I'm here to advocate. But I'm just saying that in the scriptures, it talked about the God system of this thing, right? There's a God system of this thing, right? And matter of fact, I think that's in 2 Corinthians 4:4, right? Is the God system of things, right? And it talks about this particular God. Right? And again, as you look in that story, it shows the little g, again, according to those who know that, a big G representing the all, and then the little g's are the little guys, which a lot of people say that we are a embodiment of the spirit of that creator, so we are kind of gods. So in the case here, this George Soros is saying that he is a god because he has a potent messianic fantasy, right? He has this notion in his mind that he is a messiah because he can make things fruition, right? Because he has the economic power to put his mind on particular aspects of things, and it can fruition right before his eyes and your eyes and my eyes, right? And so he has a kind of a control mechanism on not just those who are affiliated with him, but he has a global aspect, because as it goes on to this story, it talks about some things where I'll get to, but he says it is sort of a disease when you consider yourself a kind of a god, right? Well, I guess they kind of classify that as a narcissistic type of mentality when it's all about me and me. But in this case, you could be narcissistic but be broke, and you could be narcissistic and have no power. But in this case, these people could be narcissistic and got all the power, control, and manipulation influence that can affect any and everyone according to their whims, right? And he said, is this like a kind of disease, right? But he said he got to the point that he's comfortable about not, right? He's comfortable as he began to live it out. So just imagine you grew up in a family that is inheritable, these assets and grand, accounts of, acquisitions of money and wealth, right? So you've always had people cater to your whims. So everything that you, these mugs is moving to it. So this thing like you got some real power that, whatever you do, people are going to move, right? So as you mature and grow, and then let's say people who under this have eaten at the greatest restaurants, they done traveled all over the world, they done bought all the most luxurious toys, and you understand? And after a while, what happens to people like that? They get bored, right? We would assume that people who don't have money look at people with money, and then they say the fantasy that he says, how he fancy himself. Well, broke people fancy themselves if they had a lot of money, what they would do. But once you get it, I guess the game changes once you done had it for a particular time, and especially if you have the mentality to understand how to utilize your money and then keep your money. Not like how we have seen a lot of people that of our nation who have garnered a lot of millions of dollars, and then come later on down the line, they end up broke. It's because they didn't have the financial, economic knowledge to preserve and to, invest their money so that they could, let their money do the work and then still have their money later on. Right? But these people here who are intricate parts in the world, they have the institutions, they set up so much that's why he's saying they feel like a god. And he's not alone in this, right? And they say, well, somebody like this would be seen considered a blathering, irrelevant madman. Because he say, well, this dude seemed to be just talking like, he got it down packed. Like, he would be crazy in the eyes of somebody who didn't have this and be talking like that. But because he can do that, you can't look at him as a madman. And not in the sense that you talk about a madman, but in the case, even though with these people with that kind of money, they are to an extent, because we're only getting a glimpse on the surface of some of the things that they may be thinking about. Right? So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to go inside of some of the things and show and connect some of the dots and see, is this some of the plans? Because according to this story, this is what was being said. So, again, you have these people with these enormous reserves of unethical earned money. And enormous reserves is just deep pockets, right? It's like being able to order some food on takeout, right, from delivery. And when the driver comes to your house, and let's just say the bill, let's say the bill's, let's just say about $14.20. You pull out a 20, tell the driver keep the change. So it's about $5 and about 80 cents, right? That's a good little tip for a driver, right? Depending on what neighborhood you come from. So he's happy with that. That was nothing to you. The change that you gave him was nothing to you. Because let's just say you got a nice 6-figure salary You acquire some assets. You got real estate. So you still got flows of economics coming into you. So when you can fuck the change off is what I'm saying, right? Well, this is a breakdown. You just really can fuck the change off. And so when you're a billionaire, fucking off the change, it could be the lifestyle of regular people. So they can take this change part of their billions and they can create things that can have influence upon the whole damn world. Right? Because they amass their economics money through the what? Depriving of other people. The despair. It's kind of like saying, for instance, for a lot of you who may have done this, but not with this intent. Let's just say, for instance, if you ever went to the pawn shop. Now, if you come from the hood, you know pawn shops got good shit, right? You know our pawn shops be having good shit because poor people seem to get by the top line shit. And so when your ass get low on money, when you go to that motherfucking pawn shop, what you gonna do? You pawn your shit, and a lot of times you don't get that shit back because either you forgot about it, you didn't have the money later on to go back and get it. So then there is an opportunity for people who kind of like, digging for gold. They go to pawn shops, and you can find some good stuff in pawn shops, and there's some of the stuff that the people who own don't even put out, and they keep it because you got jewelry, all kinds of accessories and electronics and things of that sort, right? And so they can amass quite on the really a pawn shop makes its money and garners its material from people who are in dire straits, who wouldn't give this up, but need it because they need the cash. And so they make a business on the degradation of the people. Now, I'm not saying that people who go in there, who buy on it, that you're doing it, but I'm just saying in the case of people who are billionaires and who go out here in these countries and they're getting these reserves and, buying up the land and under the land, because the people who are poor don't know the minerals and natural resources under the ground. They just know on the surface aspect of it. But with technology and stuff like that, these people are using it and finding out there's reserves under there that will, whatever they're paying the pennies they get for the land, it's going to be more greater worth underneath, right? Whatever minerals or whatever it is that's down there. So the same thing is with these billionaires, right? Because they have amassed money that, again, they can fuck off the change. And they have the power to make once unthinkable acceptable. Now, what did I mean by that? You have things that if you've been around for some period of time, you remember when certain things was in the closet, right? Certain things was in the closet and you kept that in the closet, or they on the down low and all this other stuff, right? But somehow the powers that be have manipulated the social sciences and using, laws have made things that was once unacceptable now acceptable. And it is a crime if you even start talking about certain things of that aspect. And this is the new world that is happening right before a lot of our eyes. And either you're going to acquiesce to it or you're going to still take your stance, but you'll be considered a person of the old world, of your old world views. But that don't mean you wrong. That's just the way, again, they have changed. What they have the power to make once unthinkable acceptable. And that's just in one aspect. The unthinkable is maybe control weather modification, which I'll talk about later on, right? And the way that we can see that they can appoint kings and presidents, and you understand they can make, that's what they're talking about. The unthinkable acceptable, right? So, when you look at this, right, because he goes on and he says that he is a Deus Ex. It's either Machina or it's Machina, but I believe it's Machina. I said Machina in there, but it could be Machina. Now, what does a Deus Machina really mean? What does that really mean, right? A Deus Machina is an unexpected power or event saving a seemingly hopeless situation, especially as a contrived plot device in a play or novel. I'm going to say that again. Deus Ex Machina is an unexpected power or event saving a seemingly hopeless situation, especially as a contrived plot device in a play or of a novel. Now, stated that this is he's considered himself to be. That means that he has been or are in the works in being able to use his powers that may cause the events that seems hopeless for a situation for particular people, right? In this play or device or novel that is, again, like a script, right? There's a script being played here. And the same cat that you talk about, George Soros, also is the one who funded and set up what? Black Lives Matter, right? The Black Lives Matter movement, right? And so let's look at the comrades of people that's just like him, right? So you would have, right, billionaires, right? And I'll show you the billionaires for the top 20 of them. What you see from Bill Gates, who got about 75 billion, right, down to this Li Ka-shing, who got about 21.1 billion, right? So if we take these people here, and if you look at the top 20 people according to the Forbes magazine of the richest people in the world, and I believe there's other people out here who got money much bigger than that because they got much older money, but you wouldn't put them in this magazine, right? Because you wouldn't really want to know that how, you know, Musk got gazillions of dollars, right? Uncountable, unfathomable, unbottomless pit type of, you know, revenues. But anyway, when you look at the faces of these people, you see who they are. So when white people are upset, when black people talk about, well, white people, but let's look at the people who are running the world. Not so much as just looking at the governors and the presidents and the mayors. We're talking about the people who are the movers and the shakers of the world. This is where the game is really, this is where chess is really played at. You understand what I'm saying? This is where the chess game is at. And so when you see these people and they call themselves philanthropists, right? Philanthropists has never, ever been good for black people, right? Philanthropists has never been historically something that you can look at as people of color that has been, even though they consider themselves to be humanitarians, but it's always got a fine print, right? It's always got a hook to it, right? It's never on the face premise, right? It's always a slant to it. So they can give you this smile and so forth, but if you read the bios and study the works of a lot of them and see the stuff that they're involved in, it may look and appear a certain way, but when you really look at that, you find out deep down in there the ideologies of a lot of them and who they're really associated and affiliated with. Then you understand, as I go into this more into this video, you see this is the orchestration of the people or the power movers. And this stuff is coming to a culmination, right? It's coming down to that. Now, this 4 billionaires list goes to about, like, I think it was about 400, maybe 500 people. And then out of that, there was only 5 billionaires and 2 of them was American blacks. And you know who them 2 were? Jordan and Oprah. The other 3, I think they was Africans, right? So you got 5 billionaires versus 400 something, a mix of all would be considered under the umbrella as a European or Caucasian or Euro-Indo-European, right? Indo-European is what I'm trying to say, right? So again, what is the agenda with the people who got the money, right? So if you see him at the front saying that he's a guy, and in this list, he's not even in the top 20, but he's also an association affiliation, and they know. So again, birds of the feather flock together. Old money doing old things the way that it's always been orchestrated. New money is just trying to break through and trying to make some scratches in the glass, but ain't going to get through. You feel what I'm saying? Some Muslims talk about, well, you got Dr. Dre up there. That's new money. That new money ain't going to... But look, if they went to Vegas and sat down at the table with these cats, they could break Jordan. They could break Oprah. You understand? They could break them. So their money not as long. So they don't have the real power that these people got here. Right? So when you think of that kind of people, a conglomerate of people who have that kind of economical resource, what are some of the things that they can facilitate and make fruition, right? So, you ever seen the Georgia Guidestones? That's in, I think, it's Adbury, Georgia. You ever seen this image here? And did you ever know that the inscriptions that it talked about? Now, before I get into the inscription that what it talks about in there, look at the structure of this. Look how it is created. These are slab granites, right? And they're set up in such a way that a person who knows how to set this up. Now, again, no one knows how this got there. This is supposed to be mysteriously how this is put there. And the way it's constructed, you have to be a person who is very knowledgeable about stonemasonry. And that word I just used tell you who's part of this, right? Now, that's one aspect of the mystery to this. That's one aspect of it, right? But that's not really what I really would talk about. What I want to talk about is, again, talking about billionaires and this club that they're in and the agenda that Musk can be having. That the bottom feeders have no idea what's in their head when they have the E20s, right? What they talking about, where the world powers come together and have this one big meeting, right? What are they talking about? Because who could put something like this out in the public so that everybody could basically see, and yet it stands there and there is no real news about it. It ain't like who wrote this and why is it saying that? It's because, again, going back biblically, these Georgia stones, or they call them the Guidestones, is kind of like in your biblical story when Moses goes up into the mountain and comes down with the 10 tablets, right? Right? But he came down with the 10 commandments. Now, on the message of these Georgia Guidestones, of these the 10 tablets that is set here in America. This is the headstone of America. This is the new 10 plates that is going to be the new paradigm of the new era ushering in. This is the agenda. Now, check this out. One, it says to maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. There is 7.1 billion people on the planet. And you're talking about reducing 7.1 billion people down to 500 million. How can you do that and people not take notice? What is going to happen that calling 6.6 billion people are going to fall off the planet and nobody knows how that's going to happen? Huh? Think about that. 2, it says, guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity, right? Reproduction this is why there is this whole thing. We had to ask yourself, where does sicker come from, right? Some people can attest a lot of things and say that these are some of the things that are written in the scriptures that God said he would be pouring out these bowls on the nations. I'm not saying the creator don't exist. I'm telling you, there's possibly a script, as we're finding out. We have people who can organize, who can fruition their plans and orchestrate things, who have all these institutions to do certain studies and to know you better than you know yourself. And they can usher in things that you are unfathomable in your thinking. You do not even have the inklingness to understand where these people are coming from. So when it says guide reproduction wisely, isn't that what all this prophylactics came about? Isn't this what Planned Parenthood is all about? Right? Isn't they keep telling you that there's not enough food? This is why they had to bring out with the GMOs so that they can enlarge. But yet, what is going to be the long implications of eating this stuff? Because we've been eating it. Don't think you ain't been eating these so-called clone animals. That go all the way back to them to the 80s. You've been eating this. You just don't know it. Sometimes you done went into these Chinese restaurants and got that chicken, you know, he be so damn fat around. You be like, damn, boy, I got about 5 little pieces of wings, but them motherfuckers fat than a motherfucker. But these motherfuckers, you've been eating clone for so goddamn long to the fact that if they told you, you'd be like, fuck it, you've been eating it. So ain't no need for me to trip on that no more, right? So improving fitness and diversity, well, then that ushered into like the 90s, when they start coming in with Bally's and all these health club things, got people onto this new thing about health, right? Because again, what would be the purpose of you trying to get people to be healthy, and yet you're going to call down to 500 million? Well, that means that, you know, like the pig from the root to the tooth, they ain't going to throw nothing away. If your body good and healthy, your parts is going to somebody else who's going to be trying to maintain and live forever. Put your bottom dollar on that one. Okay? 3, it says unite humanity with a living new language. They talking about creating a new language, right? They're going to create a new language. Matter of fact, I was reading some time back when they're talking about they're going to now change the gender, not talk about boy or girl. They're going to say Z, right? Right there. So when they programming these children who go to school every day, that you don't know what they're telling your children. A lot of us, when they bring this school homework, a lot of us, we so out of the loop, didn't really be, you know, again, we rejected a lot of the nonsense because we knew it was public fooling anyway, but they give it to you and then you can't even help your children. So then that means they get they got full authority to mold and shape your child because you don't even know what they really giving them. So they're changing you understand, the language in small terms, and then later on it's just going to become a language. And probably this language is probably just, again, to call down to 500 million people, what is the prerequisite for who gets in? So we got a lot of these people who are sitting out here who are being, you know, cipher. Did you see, you know, in the movie The Matrix, a cipher and the agents sit down? So we got a lot of people who are sat down with these agents to be agent provocateurs, to sell an ideology of goodness and wholesome and everything is good, all trying to be a part of the 500 million getting in the club. Do it make sense to you now? Does it make sense that people who can see stuff that's going on, and yet when they're advocating on the other side and telling you you should be putting your hands in all? Think about it. Who gets in the $500 million club or people club? So you got to think about why so many people, they do what they do, right? So it says rule, passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. New faith, new religion, right? Gonna do away with something, right? Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. I guess when everybody of that 500 million primarily are going to be coming from people who already have massive money, you're still going to have a small population of people that got to have workers. They still got to have people that serve them. But you don't know, again, what's the criteria to even be a part of that, right? So, I mean, when you call down all that, I mean, it's going to be people that normally when you see that go to court in this day's age, people who got masses of money don't go to jail, right? It's the poor people who go into jail. The people who got money, they can pay their way out of jail. They know all the loopholes, as Donald Trump said about the tax cuts and breaks that he said all the billionaires get. He said if that was such a real problem, then you who've been in office for 30 years, why didn't y'all get rid of it? Because no, y'all benefit from it too, right? So just courts would be, a Kelsey would be easy to be just court because it would just be just you, just y'all, right? You won't have the masses of the useless eaters is how they stigmatize it, right? The useless eaters, they will not be there because they're going to try to get rid of 6.6 billion people, right? So it says, let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Well, that's just basically what they already got. Isn't that what the United Nations is all about already? Right? Isn't that what they're supposed to be doing, taking their disputes there already? So that's going to be the world court now, right? So it's avoid petty laws and useless officials, right? So they're going to do away with it. They ain't going to need all that when the majority of the people will be people of their cut, their blood, you know what I'm saying? They ain't going to need that. You don't have all the dissidents. You're not going to have all the so-called predators. You're not going to have all that according to this design and this script, right? So that's what it says, right? Balance personal rights with social duties, right? Right? So prize true beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature, leave room for nature. Now this, who can take that, put that on stones and say this as this is going to be the new guidestones for the new era or new time that's coming in? Who put that together? and no one is offended by it. These people who got all the money in the world are not offended by it. Why? You know why? Because we got to look at who they said later as they did research and trying to figure out who was it that brought them stones, right, to get it orchestrated so they could be structured. Well, they said it was a dude named R.C. Christian, right? They come out later to find out that his name was Robert Carter Cook, right? And his father was a stonemason, right? So that means that these people are all tied into these secret societies, right? So let's go on. So if you know that the secret societies are part of who helped construct and put that and set that up, then let's see that the script that should be played that most people didn't understand, right, is when it said about the Rothschilds was a whistleblower, right? And that he said that the elites were pushing for a race war in America. Now, who are the elites? Is the elites those who I was just talking about? Those billionaires? And the ones that ain't seen? Or is that the other, like, you know, royalties and priesthoods? And is that who's orchestrating all this? When they say elite, right? And that according to them, they're going to set up so that this thing fruitions into a way so that it has a culmination. Because again, you know, let's look at what, like, let's say for instance, let's take that about what happened over in Haiti, right? Right? And I showed you the video with the woman who was showing this. And when you look at it and you see all the different dynamics of storms or hurricanes or precipitations of other kinds of, you know, big types of I guess they were, you know, storm systems. And if you look at how that is, it seems like all that is concentrated to make it stay there and to go in there. And not also to go to Haiti. If it keeps going on that course that is moving, it goes right down to the south. Now, they say the bigger population of the black people in America is in the south. So is it possible one time there's going to be a hurricane that's going to come off that coast and come directly and knock out all that from, you know what I'm saying, South, North Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, you understand, Georgia? Because again, the crux of black people in America is in the South, right? So if they don't manipulate it to that part to make it allow it to keep going further in, that could be detrimental. This will help coal in this country. And we don't know all the other stuff that's going on in other lands, right? So I'm just saying that the possibilities, right? I'm not saying for certain. I'm just saying that this story was put out here. Now, you could take it for what you want to take it, or you could say you could disregard and say it's a lot of, you know, tomfoolery, right? Or you could see it for what it is. But in Haiti, again, you go back to Pat Roberts, and I did in one of my videos where I tell you where he said that the reason why Haiti keep getting what it's getting is because they made a pact with the devil. But let's just say that if we see these kind of storm systems set up here and having the knowledge that if you know anything about HARP, right? And, you know, it was made, you know, when you go back to that Nikola Tesla, right? He was the inventor. He filed the patent application of the essential parts of the machine, possibly which is the layman imagination and promise of Thor's shooting thunderbolt from the sky to punish those who have angered the gods, right? That Tesla, right? Nikola Tesla, who they call he was a genius, right? So he's the one that started this whole thing, and he's the one who patented electricity, right? And then you'll see that the possibility of that not being a pact with the devil, but there is a devil, or what he called himself a god, who may be manipulating weather because they had all the, you know, again, unearned, scrupulous assets and money that they garnered from people all around the world. And again, as you've seen when I showed you the clip of Simon Bar-Sinister. Now, Simon Bar-Sinister was a mad scientist who, when you look at it, isn't that what it was said in that story about George Soros? That he's quite mad, and that there's a little madness that ran in his family, but he's controlled it. Well, that's just one aspect. What about the rest of them, right? We've heard what some of the people have talked about using vaccination and stuff as a way to cure. And yet, if you just read recently, going up in Syria, they gave all them children up to so much vaccines. They dying. Them children dying up there, right? So, you know, it's any wonder how we still been here all this time, right? So when you say that these people have the technology and know-how and have people who have been doing this for a long period of time, then we can see that this could happen. This is not so far-fetched that it's not real. You understand? And there is, you know, knowledge about it, right? So again, when you have this kind of power and ability and access and money able to fruition it, you understand what I'm saying? They can make something that appears, again, he said, what the unacceptable become acceptable is making something appear to be an act of God, right? When you think the act of God is kind of like insurance, right? If you can have all the coverage on your house, but there's a part in insurance that can't be covered, which is the act of God, right? And so when we see hurricanes that are coming and demolishing and devastating, then where is the resources that will be garnered from at least insurance? They can't even get that. So you devastate a whole land. And is there a purpose for devastating this land and keeping them in that perpetual disarray due to, again, the fruitioning of an agenda? Is that part of it? Because, again, what are the dynamics and population in this country when you know that historically these people have done something that most countries have not been able to do, right? So let's look at the fact that I showed you in there where it showed the picture of the Moor, right? And then you see the next clip after that was the Moor was being enchained. In his mind, he was like, I remember when you was in the damn cave, when you was a caveman, and I brought you knowledge and know-how. And in the white man's mind, you see in his mind is a reminder when you was the Moor. When did the Inquisition ever stop? Was there ever a time limit on the Inquisition? Was the Inquisition to a point and then to come back and now to call it and to knock it out completely? Is the same thing we're seeing in Syria and Iraq. And if you know history and know why these places are pivotal points and history-wise, and then understand the losses that have came in the historical of Europeans, these are the people who was giving them their L's. And they ain't never slept on that. They ain't never forgot about that. You understand? And so it seems like all this stuff is culminating into a dynamic of this world war. So they say they want to usher in, imagine in a world where there's no disease, there's no danger, there's no pain, right? That was also written in the Bible too, right? These scriptures are written in the Bible. We're talking about a time where there will be none of these things. The former things have passed away, right? And this is the offering that the agents give to the ciphers. That if you kneel down and fall and give an act of worship, which goes back to what's that? Matthew 4, 5 through 11. If you fall down and do an act of worship to me, all these things can be yours, right? Like in the movie 300, when he came to Leonidas and said, I am kind, right? He said, you could keep your land as long as you give honor and glory to me. So there's a lot of people who they get you and when you're young, kind of like in the beginning where you have the story with Malcolm sitting with the teacher and Malcolm is saying, I have the capabilities of being a lawyer, but the teacher's telling him, no, be realistic. Being realistic is, in our scheme of plan of things, you can only play where we need you. Be in the position we need you in. Work through that. Be able to do well and provide for your family. I'll give you work, right? I'll give you work, but be realistic. The reality is we're going to always want to be in control. You know why? Let me show y'all something, man. Let me show you like those 10 stones, right? Right? The 10 stones. Let me show you something here. Let me show you the decree. One is that this nationalist places their race above all and make any and all sacrifices necessary to further the cause of the white nationalism and the advancement of our people or their people, right? Right? They make all sacrifice necessary to further the cause for white nationalists and to advance of their people. You got to understand that. So you're going to tell me that when you look at that list of these billionaires and looking at them, oh, they're not racist. They're not about race. Then what are they about? How can there be with that many people who got that kind of money and access and institutions and resources that there's even poverty in America? In America. I didn't say in the world, in America. Because a lot of us, they say we are useless and we don't want anything. We just want handouts. A nationalist does all they can to secure the existence of their people and the future for their white children. How is that possible if they're not trying to fruition these things? How is that even possible if they're not going to do it? The nationalists take pride in history, culture, values, morals, and accomplishments of their people and lives and live by those standards set by their ancestors. See? But when you talk to our people and talk about history, I don't talk about that was way back then. We in the now. We in the now. We in the now. Yeah, you in the now. And you ain't going nowhere without knowing what happened before to know how everything is fruitioning in your eyes has something to do with what happened before you got here. But all you want to keep on talking about, we living in the now, and y'all got to get that out your mind. But you're talking about culture and hip hop, right? You're talking about that stuff, right? And the values that we value is we're all becoming black Europeans, black peons, right? We're just, God is becoming the money of God is, that's what it is now. Everybody's little mantra now is, I'm stacking my paper and getting that money. Okay, but that money ain't really where the power is at. Again, someone said, take your money and see how much power you got with it, and you'll find out you ain't got no power with your money. You just got some deaded papers. Morals. I mean, look at us as a people. Look at our morals. Look at what some of our people are out here doing to each other. And to recognize the accomplishment of our people. Let me say this. I'm seeing a lot of people who call themselves in culture and hip hop. And yes, they may be the MCs and they may be rapping. But you know who I'm seeing a lot of doing the music? White people. You know why white people know the music better than most blacks? Is because they're studying the history of your people's music that you don't even look at and don't even go back and listen to no more because that shit is square to you. That's some simping shit to you. So you don't even look back at that because a lot of that got something to do with fruition. Because let's say back in the 60s and 70s and look at the music and look at the unity we had on love music versus this stuff we talking about today. Everybody keep want to talk about some stuff that this is how I live in that. No, man, I don't even get into that. And you don't think about no ancestors because you don't got no respect for elders, right? But them nationalists, they do. Everything, every day is for them. You don't just get February, they got every day, right? Nationalists strive to exemplify class, strong character, and a standard of excellence at all times so that they never let their people down. Wow. Could we ever get that? Could we ever get that in our minds? That we want to exemplify class? Huh? that I wouldn't do that to my brother. That I look at you in the same respect that I want you to look at me. And then just together we can do this. Because we can't wait till I get down to that part, I'll get there. Strong character. Now, strong character us meaning who the nigga could whoop everybody's ass. That's what we talking about character is. That nigga that could whoop and kill and shoot everybody, that's what we call strength. Not strength of character when say, look, whoever running it, calling it, we're not doing this where we live at. We setting a new model. That's not what it's gonna be. No, we can't do that because it's a get money. What you say? Oh, get money, huh? And then he calls and then he whims. Standard of excellence at all times so that you never let your people down. It used to be a time when you didn't want to bring shame to your family name. You didn't do crazy shit to put nothing. Man, boy. Nationalism cultivates camaraderie and fosters unity amongst our people, for we will triumph together as one and we shall perish alone. Said it right there. Huh? Camaraderie. All your peoples. Come together, foster unity amongst our people. Because if we don't, we can't triumph as one. Because we're going to perish alone. And all this is about me getting mine and not you getting yours. And as long as you got yours and you can look better than somebody else, you think you're doing something. But that's not what this is about. It's not what this game is about. Huh? Nationalists think before they act, so that they do not bring shame, harm, or disgrace to themselves or their people. Say that again. Nationalists think before they act so that they do not bring shame, harm, or disgrace to themselves or their people. Put that in there. Put that in your mind. Start thinking like that. Start realizing that when you take one of yours, that's one less of us. Never mind. Never mind. Nationalists strengthen their body through healthy living, sharpen and hones their minds through the pursuit of knowledge, and fortifies their spirit with steadfast determination in order to become personification and vehicles of nationalism and victory. Nationalize not to their comrades and people, for they are a family, and honesty is their virtue. Nationalists add special significance to the concept of honor and will not accept any transgressions against the cause, people, or their persons. Nationalists never surrender, never retreats, and would rather die than accept any defeat. Jesus wouldn't want me to do that. Huh? Man, boy. See, a lot of times people say you need to take certain aspects and follow other people and do what they do, right? But there's some things you could take, as I just displayed there. Replied. So when the black ball can figure out the white ball, right? When the 8 ball can figure out the cue balls game, then we can get our shit together. There was 10 points I just gave there. Pass that shit along, apply that into our lives, preparing ourselves with what's coming. Because it's here, y'all. It's here. That damn unimaginable, what you thought was not going to ever happen, is happening right before your eyes. And you are only 8 days away from what is going to happen from 2017. Well, this is Mr. Blow Your Minds coming with another thought-provoking topic. I got a new channel I'm going to do called Black Minds TV, where I'll just be doing strictly news. The Mr. Blow Your Mind will still be the dissertations with videos and all that. But I want you to go subscribe to Black Minds TV, and we'll be putting that up. Primarily, I'm going to be doing that live. I'm not even going to do that. If you catch it on the replay, you could have caught it live. Now, if you want to catch some of this live, I suggest that you go to Google Plus, become one of my people in the circle, so that when I'm going to do live, I send it to you and you'll get it and you'll know, let's get it in. I want y'all to come and participate, because I'm going to bring out some stuff that a lot of people are not talking about, because again, you act like some of this stuff is not part of, have anything to do with you. But you're mistaken. We don't got a lot of time. Time is ticking.